Welcome to this week's podcast. I'm Tim Weigel, Grape and Hop IPM Specialist with the New York State IPM program and team leader of the Lake Erie Regional Grape program. And here we are in Portland, New York at Clairol, and we're in the really important immediate pre-bloom period. We're starting to get to the point we've seen locusts in bloom, we've seen wild grapes in bloom, so those are the bioindicators to let us know that it's pretty shortly here we're going to see the Concords come into bloom. We're looking, I think the last prediction was June 13th, so in a few days here, we'll have Concords in bloom. So we want to get our immediate pre-bloom sprays on. Really, there's not a whole lot of insects going on now. We're seeing some banded grape bug out there, so if you have some sites where banded grape bug is a problem, you'll want to go out and test. It's pretty easy. You get a white piece of paper and just tap the vine, a couple shoots. If you find one banded grape bug per shoot, then that's the threshold and you should go out and spray, because they feed directly on the florets on the cluster, so you can lose a lot of crop very quickly at even low levels of banded grape bug. So immediate pre-bloom period, we're also worried about the four major diseases, so powdery mildew, black rot, downy mildew, and phomopsis. That's when we're starting to see the primary inoculum for those four diseases peaking at this time, so we want to make sure that we apply the materials for all four diseases. We've had conversations at the coffee pot meetings, that the small grower meetings we hold here on a weekly basis in the Lake Erie region, that some growers have indicated they're not really happy with the materials, the efficacy of some of the materials they put out there. They feel that, especially with some of the newer products that they're using, they're not getting the control that they think they should. So it's really interesting. We've taken that information and said, okay, well, let's look at your spray records. Let's look at the problems that you had. And so we look at the spray records and we actually go back into NEWA. NEWA is an excellent tool. It not only tells you what infection periods are occurring, but it looks out into the future, so it can help you plan and time your sprays now. But it also helps us at the end of the growing season. We can go back and look and say, okay, what infection periods did we have? And what type of leaf wetness periods did we have? So if you go to NEWA, you go to your station page. We have quite a few machines across New York State in the grape regions. Go to a station closest to you, click on grape diseases, and the model will come up, and you can actually go in and go back to what happened last year. So if you're saying, I used this material last year, I didn't think I got the control that I wanted, I would suggest going into NEWA. And if you look at what is on the screen now, it shows you where you can go back in last year and look at what happened as far as the infection periods and the leaf wetness periods. There's a little button down there that shows the infection log or show the leaf wetness log. You can use those. Look at your infection periods, look at the severity of the infection periods, how often they occurred, and I think you might be surprised, at least the growers I worked with last year, a number of them were, I didn't realize that we stretched the interval that far, or I didn't realize that the infection periods that occurred between sprays were that severe. So by going in and looking at that, it might help you make the decision this year that no, it wasn't the material that was starting to fail. We're not starting to see resistance, but maybe it was the timing that was involved and the rates that are being used. And so talking a little bit about, resistance in that, keep in mind it's really important that we don't do back-to-back sprays with material. You can look at the codes that are on the front, the Fungicide Resistance Action Committee, or FRAC codes. And so it's really easy to determine a resistance management plan just by looking at the number. You don't want to use the same number over and over and over again. You'd like to mix them around. So when you're looking at materials to use, look at the FRAC code, look at your active ingredient. It doesn't really matter what the name is of the chemical, but you want to look at that active ingredient and just make sure that you're mixing up your modes of action, especially with the powdery mildew. We have a number of materials that are available, a number of different modes of action, so it should be pretty easy to come up with a plan that will provide you powdery mildew control through the rest of the season. If you have any questions, comments, if you have some suggestions for future podcasts, please leave them in the comment section below.